welcome to today's video. In today's video I have set up a basic scene using a skybox, and this is just a floor, a normal plane or a cube, which I added a material to it to give it this shining effect, which with a little bit of metallicness. And so in today's video I'm going to explain what a coroutine is and how I would show you an example of how to use it. Okay, so over here I created a script called rain cues because the weather looks kind of cloudy and then I want rain to fall, but then with the condition. So I would use the coroutine to explain how you can use this. So let's open up this script. So what I would say is that the coroutine is a built-in function of Unity, which you can use to start or execute a line of code after a certain amount of seconds. That's a time based on the frame of the computer. And then I'm going to create a kind of quick instantiation of cubes or spawning of cubes. For those who don't understand what that is, I explained it in a video of mine. I'll put the link in the description. So I will just show you how to spawn cubes at random position, making it rain, but then using the coroutine. So the first thing I would need would be to create a public game object. I will name this spawn. I need to give gap here, and then next thing I want is to create the time which I would use to be spawning in this game object. So public float, and for this float I would call it time to spawn. Okay, A, and then lastly I would create a random number which would be going up, and then I would use a condition to state when or not to start or stop the coroutine. So public, I would call this float, and I'm going to call it num. So for the time to spawn I'm going to give it a time of 2f. F is okay, I didn't put the equal sign. F, it's like a unit of float. There are certain things that you cannot do, or you cannot just state without giving it an F. That is when you're using some functions of Unity. But then if you give it F, it means you are specifying it to be a float, and then it's going to understand the number. Sometimes it works without the F, but for you to just not keep an error or try to come back or keep going forward and coming back to correct this, it's best you use the F. Okay, so now the next thing I will be doing, I would go into my update and I will give a condition for the instantiation of cubes. Okay, so in the update I'm going to type in if num, that's my random number, if it's less than, I'm going to give it 10. Then I want to, first of all, I want to iterate it. That's, I'm going to increase the value by 1. So num, and then the way you do this is by putting plus plus. If you want to subtract the value by 1, you use minus minus, else you can come here and then you put the value you want to add it by, which is no, you use plus equal the value. That's if you want to add a number higher than 1, but then I don't want to use that, so I would use plus plus just to increment the value by 1. So the next thing I would do would be to start my coroutine. And my coroutine's name would be rain. Oh, not rain cubes. I'm not creating an instance. Would be rain. Then I will use a semicolon to cover this. Of course, I have not created the coroutine or the function, so that's why it's showing red. And you have to specify where you want to start the coroutine, or else the coroutine would not work no matter how hard you try. So down here, just below the update, I'm going to create an IE numerator. I'm going to name this rain. Okay. So we've created the numerator, but as you can see, it's still showing red, which means there is an error. Whenever you create a coroutine, you have to add the time which you want it to be executed, which you want it to execute a line of code, or else you're just going to have errors and then you keep looking up and down for a way to fix it, but then there is no fixed pattern to it. So the next thing I will do will be yield return new wait for seconds. So after putting this, then you specify the amount of time you want to wait for. You have to use this pattern, or else it's not, your coroutine is not going to work. So in here I would put in my time to spawn, and then I'm going to close this with a semicolon. Then in here I'm going to create the instantiated game object. So I'm going to instantiate, and then I need to give it, first of all, the game objects that would be spawned in. That would be my spawn. X would be the position, and since I want to spawn this at random positions, not just a fixed one, I'm going to go over here and first of all declare a vector tree. Okay, I'm going to call this random. Then in my updates over here, I'm going to choose my random, and in my random I'm going to create a new vector 3, and the values I'm going to use for this on my x-axis would be random dot range, and I want it on my x value to be between 1 and 5. Okay, so then on my x I want it to be 1, or let me put 2, just so it would look more like a rainfall. And for my z value, I'm going to copy this line, I'm going to paste it here, but then I would increase this 5 to 7, and then I'm going to close this. So for the position, it would be my random, and for my rotation, I don't want my game object to be rotated in any way, so I'm going to use the default rotation. That's quaternion dot identity. this is it. And right now when I save this and I go to my Unity project, I'll wait for it to compile in a bit. And still loading, still loading, still loading. Done. So first thing, I will create an empty game object. This would be my spawn position. And for this value, let me reset it. It doesn't really matter where I place it, as long as it's in the scene. The game object to be instantiated would follow this, would appear in my scene as long as it's active. It doesn't really matter which position I keep it. And then the next thing I would be to create my object. So I'm going to use let's use a sphere for this tutorial. So I will use this sphere, and I don't really like the size of it, so I'm going to scale it up to 10. Then oh no, 10. That's a bit too big. That's huge. So let's put it down to 5, 5, 5. Yeah, I think this should be okay. Sort of. So to make things okay, my script will be dragged into the spawn position because that's where it would be read and executed. And then my sphere, for my sphere I'm going to add a rigid body to it because I want it to fall. And then I'm going to drag this sphere and place it in my project. So I will create a prefab of it, and then I'll go ahead and delete this. Then back to my spawn position, the object I want to spawn, which I gave a name spawn to, I'm going to drag the game object and I'm going to place it here. So now I'm going to play the game. Let me just make this bigger. I'm going to play the game, and then when I hit play, we should watch what happens. And there it is, it works. Although the cube, when they collide, they roll off the floor, but my rain works. So this is just a basic tutorial on how to use the coroutine. You can use it for so many more things, not just for what I use it for, but then it is really helpful. So it's really helpful, particularly when you have like a wave which you want to be spawning in from time to time. You can use the I enumerator, or if you want to play a scene in your game, you can also use this, and then you can just try and use it for different aspects of the game, as long as it works just fine. So thank you for watching this video. For my next video, I'm going to show you how you can use colors in rendering game objects such as this prefab, not necessarily a material, but then random colors, adding random values to it. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up for this video, comment in the comment section, and subscribe for more of my content. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.